Well, my father was pretty revolutionary in sort of advancing this idea to begin with, but he would still do some light tillage between the vines. So, we can look and we have the rows of vines behind me here, but then between each vine, we have a German machine called a Clemens. It's like an airplane wing, and it flies, 4 or 5 centimeters under the surface of the soil and cuts the roots of the grass. And it's definitely a huge step up from herbicides, which we've never used. My father never used.
Yeah.
But also, these vines behind me are unrooted, and we have to worry about phylloxera in this area because it's now present here.
Mm.
So I really felt like it was detrimental to the vines to continue to drag phylloxera through the soil. And what I've seen since I made that transition, of course, is just, I think, real improvements in wine quality. You can see actually the baby clusters are forming there.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Yeah. And these are Pinot Noir?
This is, yes, Pinot Noir planted 1974 in just a few days. It's probably about maybe 8 or 9 millimeters a day. It's lovely because, when we have this kind of weather in the spring, it's rare. We often have rain, and that means that the mites can just get in there and munch away at the buds, but we don't have to worry about that this year.
Yeah. And I can see, I mean, you definitely, your viticultural style is kind of natural. There's a lot of cover crops and grass that I can see growing around. So you're letting diverse cultures growing around there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big part of what we do. Let me turn the camera around again. Let's look at the cover.
Sure.
So if you look around the base of the grapevine here, here's one kind of grass. Here's another. Here's a little herb. This is a fourth kind of grass. Here we have a mustard. We have a little umbelliferae right here. So altogether, in an old plantation like this, we can see 18 to 22 different plants growing around a vine. And if we look at younger plantings, then that's closer to 6 to 8 different species.
Wow.
And so when you look down these rows, there's just a lot of species diversity there, really helping to feed the vines. This is actually just for pretty. I planted a little strip of wildflowers for the family. So you can see all our little seedlings coming up. But then behind it, this is a field that had Pinot Gris planted in 1979. And you can see here that we're doing some, it's not plowing, because plowing creates something called a plow pan. And we're just basically turning the grasses that we've been growing here for the last 2 years into the soil to enrich the soil. And we'll continue to do this process for another couple of years, continuing to increase the natural fertility of the soil, and then we'll start to plant. And so you can see this range of mountains with the clouds over the top. Behind those mountains is the Pacific Ocean.
Wow, beautiful.
And then if I spin around and look directly east, maybe you can see the mountains to the east. They're much further away. Those are the Cascades.
Yeah.
And so on the other side of those is the Great Basin Desert.
Right.
And so now I'm looking straight down the Willamette Valley, which is between these two ranges of mountains. So to the west, on the west side of those mountains, which are only about 80 kilometers away, they receive something like, 10 feet of rain a year. So that's 3.5 meters of rain. And we get just a little bit over a meter here. So those western mountains are very important to sort of keep a lot of that rain and the cool weather from the Pacific from hitting us. Brilliant. And then the mountains to the east protect us from that really extreme desert climate. So I'm right at the apex of the Dundee Hills, and so that's at about 280 meters. You'll see here the red tone to the soil. Those are volcanic soils. Although at lower elevations we have Missoula flood soils, And so these are soils that were left by glacial floods about 15,000 years ago, and they're sort of on the lower elevations of the hills, spread over the volcanic soil like butter on toast. Like my father's big theory and why he came here was that he really felt that what's more important to the quality of how a variety performs in a region has much less to do with the soil and much more to do with the climate. So there are limestone soils in warm climates that would be much more analogous to Burgundies, but they don't make very good Pinot Noir. Really, what's most important to the vine is the climate. And then in my mind, second most important is the life in the soil, because that's the access point for the plants to contact minerality. Mm. And then third is soil. So I don't place as much primacy on soil as other regions because I'm just a lot more interested in farming.